The moment everything Brikeith's sun was already dipping low behind the hills, casting long shadows across the quiet set. Most of the crew had wrapped for the day, packing up gear with tired hands and distant eyes. It had been a rough week. Delays, rewrites, last-minute changes, but none of that compared to what was happening inside Stage 7. Ana de Armas stood alone in the middle of the dim soundstage, her costume half undone, makeup smudged under her eyes, and fingers trembling slightly. As she held a folded piece of paper, was a note. Short, unsigned, but cruel. It said things no one should ever say to another human being. It wasn't the first time. She stared at the empty director's chair. All she heard was silence. Not the silence of peace, but the heavy kind. The kind that wraps around your neck and pulls. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered, her voice cracking. It wasn't the acting. She loved acting. It wasn't even the script, though it had been butchered by 3 different writers in a month. It was the whispers behind her back, the cruel laughter when she walked past, the sudden change in tone when she entered a room. People said she was difficult, that she thought she was better than the rest, she didn't deserve the lead, that she got lucky, but she wasn't lucky. She worked hard, harder than most. She carried wounds no one so came from a place where dreams were too expensive to have. And now that she had finally made it here, standing on the edge of a dream, or pushing her off the cliff, and she was ready to jump, Ana walked over to the corner where her bag sat, zipped it slowly, and pulled her hoodie tight around her face. She didn't want anyone to see the tears. Not this time. Not again. She walked fast, hoping to get out before someone stopped her. But as she reached the door, it opened. Keanu Reeves stood there, holding 2 cups of tea. He looked surprised. Not because she was crying, but because he already knew she was going to. "Tea," he said gently, holding one out. She didn't answer. Just stood there frozen, her hand on the strap of her bag. Her eyes were red, her lips pressed tight. "You weren't going to say goodbye, were you?" he asked, stepping closer. "I was just ... double quotes," she began, then stopped. "Quitting," he said softly. She nodded. Keanu didn't flinch, didn't lecture, didn't try to talk her out of it. He just sat down on one of the metal crates nearby and placed both cups on the ground. "I've quit before," he said, eyes fixed on the floor. "Once, maybe twice. It doesn't make you weak. Sometimes walking away is survival." Ana didn't expect that. "But sometimes," he continued, "we walk away because we believe lies. Lies that tell us we don't belong, that we're not enough, that we're alone." He looked up at her, really looked. "You're not alone, Ana. Not here, not with me." She slowly walked over and sat beside him. The silence that followed was different, softer. She didn't speak, and he didn't push. After a long moment, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn notebook. The pages were bent, corners folded, ink faded in places. "This was given to me by someone a long time ago," he said. "A teacher. Back when I first started, when no one believed in me. I want you to have it." Ana opened the notebook slowly. Inside were short lines, quotes, moments, confessions, words like, "Don't measure your light with someone else's shadow. You're not here by accident. You're the answer to someone's silent prayer. When you feel small, remember you are someone's mountain." Her hands trembled again, but this time not from fear. "Why are you giving this to me?" whispered. Keanu smiled. "Because someone once told me I was worth fighting for, and now it's my turn." A tear rolled down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. "I don't think I can face them tomorrow," she said quietly. "Then face me," Keanu said. "Just me. Look at me when you act. Forget the rest. Block it all out. I'll be there." Ana nodded slowly. Not because everything was okay, not because the pain was gone, but because for the first time in a long time someone saw her, really saw her, and that was enough to stay. For now, later that night, Ana sat in her hotel room, the notebook beside her on the bed. She read every line, every page, under the soft light of a single lamp. She didn't know who wrote some of them, didn't know the full story behind them. But somehow, every word felt like a thread stitching her back together. She whispered to the empty room. Thank you, Keanu. She wasn't healed, but she had one reason not to leave. And sometimes, one reason is all it takes. Whispers and Waith. Next morning, Anna stood in front of the mirror in her trailer. Her eyes were swollen from crying, but there was a new kind of stillness in her chest. Not peace, not yet. More like quiet resolve. The little notebook was still on the table next to her, untouched coffee. She had read it cover to cover twice during the night. Some words had stayed with her. Some had echoed through her dreams. When the noise gets loud, listen for the whisper that says, keep going. She wasn't sure if she was ready to return, but she knew she didn't want to leave without trying. Anna pulled her hair into a low ponytail and threw on her long coat. As she stepped out of the trailer, the air felt heavy. People were moving quickly, lighting crews, assistants, makeup teams, but none of them looked her in the eyes. They all moved around her like she was a ghost. That hurt, but she remembered what Keanu said. You're not alone, not with me. Her feet moved forward, one step, then another. She made it to stage 7. Inside, the director was already barking orders. Props were being adjusted, lights repositioned. Background actors were lining up. Anna kept her head low, but then she saw Keanu sitting quietly on a folding chair in the corner, sipping from a thermos, watching the chaos with calm eyes. When he saw her, he didn't wave, didn't smile. He just nodded, slow, steady. It was like a signal. You're here. I see you. Anna took her mark. The assistant director handed her a copy of the revised scene. It was a tense, emotional moment between her character and Keanu's. She scanned it, her heart skipping. The new dialogue was colder, flatter, like someone had drained all the humanity from the scene. She looked at the writer, who was sitting nearby, scrolling his phone without care. He hadn't even looked at her once. Anna looked toward the director and raised her hand. Excuse me? Could we maybe talk about this line? She asked softly. The director barely turned. No time. Just hit your mark and say the words. Her lips parted slightly, but no sound came out, and no one defended her, until Keanu stood up. He said, walking forward slowly. I think we should talk about it. The room froze. The director blinked. Keanu, with all due respect, we're making a film about real people with real emotions, right? Keanu said calmly. Not robots. If Anna's character wouldn't say this, maybe we should listen. A long silence. The director exhaled sharply. Fine. 5 minutes. Talk it through. The moment the director turned away, Keanu reached Anna's side and crouched slightly so they were eye level. You okay? He asked. I think so, she whispered. Anna swallowed. Hard eyes still wet. She's not angry, she's scared. She's breaking inside but trying to hide it. She needs to be heard. Keanu nodded slowly. Then let's help her say that. They sat together, knees almost touching, and rewrote the scene with a pen and scrap paper. Simple lines. No dramatic flourishes. 10. When they stepped in front of the camera, Anna's hands trembled. But Keanu gave her a gentle glance, one that said, we're in this together. The director sighed loudly. Action. And this time, the words felt real. Not perfect, but hers. After the take, the director stood silently for a long time, then gave a single nod. Keep that one. Anna walked off the set, feeling something she hadn't felt in weeks. Worth. But as she headed toward her trailer, she overheard 2 crew members behind the lighting rig. She only got that scene changed because of Keanu. Yeah, he feels sorry for her. She'll be gone by next month anyway. The old ache returned. Even in her win, they stole something from her. She closed the door of her trailer and pressed her back to it. Why does it always come back? She thought. But then she saw the notebook again. She remembered one line she had read over and over. They will talk. Let them. You have mountains to move. She opened the notebook and scribbled that line on a sticky note, then placed it on the mirror. Just as she finished, a gentle knock came at the door. Keanu holding 2 sandwiches and a paper bag. Lunch, he said, with a small smile. You look like you forgot to eat again. Anna blinked, almost laughing. You're too nice. No, he replied, handing her the bag. I just remember what it felt like, and I don't forget. I sat on the floor of the trailer, eating quietly, like old friends who didn't need to fill the silence. After a moment, Anna asked, How did you deal with it? The voices, the hate, the lies. Keanu leaned back, thinking. I stopped trying to change them, he said. I started listening to the few voices that mattered. One person who believes in you can drown out 100 that don't. And if that one person leaves, she asked, Keanu looked her in the eyes, then you be that person. Anna didn't answer, but for the first time, she believed it was possible. Outside, the trailer, the wind picked up. Clouds rolled in. And somewhere the crew argued about lighting setups and budgets. But inside that small trailer, Ina felt something shift. She wasn't fixed, but she wasn't broken either. She was beginning again. The echo that followeth next day started cold. Not just the weather, but everything around Anna felt distant. Like the warmth she felt with Keanu yesterday had been sealed in a jar and left behind in that trailer. She walked into makeup early, hoping to avoid the crowded rush. She kept her head down. Let them apply the foundation and brush her hair in silence. Nobody said good morning. Nobody asked how she was, but she didn't expect them to. Not anymore. Yet somewhere deep inside, she didn't feel invisible. Not completely. Not after yesterday. Not after Keanu stood up for her. Not after she found her voice haven, if only for one scene. When she stepped onto set, she saw Keanu, already in costume. He was flipping through the new call sheets while sipping tea again. He looked peaceful, present, like the chaos never touched him, like he knew something everyone else did. Anna walked up beside him. Scene 42 today? She asked softly. Yep, he said without looking up. It's the confrontation in the rain. You ready? I think so. Good, he said, handing her a copy of the scene. Because I've been rewriting it in my head all night. Anna blinked. Wait? What? He smiled. Not because the script was bad, just missing something. Missing what? Truth. She looked down at the printed page. The scene had her character accusing his of betrayal, but the words felt loud, forced, too dramatic to be real. I think she wouldn't yell, Anna said after a moment. I think she'd whisper like she's too hurt to scream. Exactly, Keanu nodded. Less noise. Or wait. They found a quiet corner near the back of the studio and spent the next hour shaping the scene together. Hey, no egos, no arguments. It's just two people trying to tell the truth through fiction. But when the cameras rolled, the storm wasn't just in. The script, as they stepped outside to film the rain scene on the open lot, dark clouds began to gather for real. Lightning flashed in the distance. The director growled about delays, but Anna stood still in the wind, her costume already soaked. Heart pounding, and when the scene began, she didn't shout. She whispered, You said you'd stay. Her voice cracked. You said no matter what, you wouldn't walk away. Keanu's eyes shimmered under the rain. I never wanted to, he said in character. Anna stepped closer. Not acting now. Not pretending. She was drawing from something real.
Then why did
it feel like I'm always the one left behind? The silence after her line lasted longer than scripted. The crew was frozen. Even the rain seemed to pause. The director didn't yell cut. He just let it hang there. And when the scene finally ended, no one moved. Anna turned, slowly stepping back under the canopy. Her hands shook, not from cold, but from release. She had poured out something deep, something real, and she wasn't sure she could ever put it back. As she toweled off and changed into dry clothes, one of the lighting crew, an older woman named Marlock Wiley, walked up. Hey, Marla said, almost shy. That was ... something. You made me cry. Anna looked up, surprised. Thank you, she said softly. Marla hesitated, then added, I know people talk, but I just wanted you to know ... I see you. And today you reminded me why I love movies. And she was gone. Anna stood there, stunned. It was the first kind word from someone outside Keanu, and weeks later, Keanu joined her in the break tent with with 2 cups of hot cocoa. "You wrecked me today," he said, sitting down beside her. "Me? Yeah, that line. About always being the one left behind. I felt that." Anna stared. At her hands? It wasn't just the character talking. Keanu nodded. "I know. I thought no one noticed how alone I felt here, I thought." "Maybe I didn't matter, you do," he said simply. "Not just here, not just on camera. You matter." Anna didn't speak. For a long time, finally, she said, "I think I'm scared to believe that." Keanu leaned back in his chair. "Good, that means it's important." They sat in silence again, but this time it felt safe. After lunch, Anna returned to her trailer. On the mirror, the sticky note from yesterday was still there. "They will talk. Let them. You have mountains to move." Out. She added a new one beneath it. "You are not just the scene. You are the reason they feel something." As evening came, the crew gathered for reshoots. But something was different. Anna noticed people were looking at her more now, not with judgment but with curiosity. Like they were waiting to see what she'd bring. Next, not all the stares were kind, but not all were cruel either. Keanu caught up with her just before the last shot of the day. "You know," he said, "they're not going to say it out loud, but they respect what you did today." Anna raised an eyebrow. "Even the ones who talk behind my back?" He chuckled. "Especially them." She smiled, just a little. Not everything had changed, but something had started, and she wasn't turning back. When the mask slips 3 days passed, and in those 3 days, something strange happened. Anna stopped flinching when she walked onto set. She didn't look over her shoulder as often. She didn't lower her voice when asking questions. She even started standing a little straighter, like she belonged, because she did. But not everyone liked that. The tension was quiet, sharp, and hard to spot unless you were really paying attention. Glances that lasted a second too long. Inside jokes shared in corners. Polite smiles that didn't reach the eyes. And one morning, Anna found a small folded note left on her makeup station again. No name. No signature. Just for words written in harsh ink. "Don't get too comfortable." She stared at it for a long time. The makeup artist, a kind older man named Raphael, walked in and saw the paper. He picked it up, read it, and frowned deeply. "You." "Okay," he asked gently. Anna nodded once. "Yeah, just tired." Raphael didn't push. He just swept the note into his back pocket and started brushing powder on her cheeks like nothing had happened. But he whispered something as he worked. "Their fear has nothing to do with you. It's about what you make them feel. You remind them of the work they're not doing." Anna blinked. "What do you mean?" Raphael smiled faintly. "You're not pretending anymore. And that scares people who still are." She looked at him, really looked, and for the first time saw the tired behind his eyes. The kind that comes from being overlooked too long, ignored too many times. "Thank you," she said softly. He patted her shoulder. "You've got a light. Keep it on." That day's scene was difficult, full of silence and slow movements. The kind where nothing is said, but everything has to be felt. Anna had to sit across from Keanu's character while pretending to process betrayal. It was a delicate moment, easy to overdo. Before the cameras rolled, Keanu leaned across the table and whispered, "You don't have to act it. Just remember that feeling from the trailer. The first day I stopped you from walking out." Anna met his eyes, and when the camera started, she didn't act. She remembered, and it poured out of her quiet pain, unspoken grief, a single tear sliding down her cheek without effort. The director said nothing after the take, just motioned for the crew to set up for the next angle, but as Anna walked off the set, she passed 2 producers standing by the monitors. They weren't whispering this time. "She's unpredictable," one said. "Too emotional, too sensitive. If it wasn't for Keanu, she'd be off this picture already." "I know, but now the studio's watching. She's a trending topic this week." Keanu defending her, that crying scene yesterday. "Fans love it. They'll use her while she's hot." Anus. The stomach dropped. It didn't matter that she had found her voice. They didn't respect her growth. They just saw numbers. As she sat alone behind the set walls, her hands clenched. Was that all this was? A wave to ride? A story to twist? A product? Her thoughts spiraled until she heard a familiar voice. You okay? It was Keanu again. How did he always know? She looked up, eyes wide, heart racing. I heard what they said, she admitted. He sat beside her on the concrete floor. Yeah, he said softly. I heard too. So what do I do? She asked. Just keep smiling. Keep letting them profit off my pain? No, he said calmly. You tell the truth, even when your voice shakes, especially then. Anna swallowed hard. They don't care about my truth. Some don't, he said. But you do, and so do the people watching. They know when it's real. They're starving for real. She let that sit in her chest for a while, then asked, but what if they twist it anyway? What if I open up ... and they use it against me? Keanu looked at her, not as a co-star, not even as a mentor, but as a friend. Then at least you stood in your truth. Nothing they twist can take that away. Anna didn't speak again, but she reached into her bag, pulled out the notebook he gave her, and opened it to a blank page. She wrote, They don't get to write my story. Not anymore. After that, she got up and walked back on set. She wasn't numb. She was ready that afternoon. The studio released behind-the-scenes footage of the rain scene they filmed earlier in the week, a video of her whispering those broken words to Keanu. It wasn't supposed to be public, but it went viral. Millions of views, thousands of comments. This scene gave me chills. She's not acting. She's living it. Ana de Armas just gave the performance of her life. Keanu texted her later. Told you the world needs your truth. But Anna just stared at the screen, because one comment stood out above all the rest. I've never seen someone cry like that and make me feel less alone. Thank you, Anna. You saved me tonight. She put the phone down and wept, not from sadness, but because for the first time, ... she realized she wasn't just surviving. She was helping someone else survive too. The storm behind the spotlight the next morning, Anna walked onto the lot to find something she hadn't seen in weeks. Silence, not the cold. Heavy silence that crushed her early days on set. This was different. People nodded when she passed. Some smiled softly. A few even whispered kind words as she moved between the makeup trailer and the stage. Raphael met her at her chair and gave a small, proud grin. The world saw the real you, he said as he powdered her face, and they didn't look away. Anna smiled, but didn't answer. Her heart was full and cautious, because for every hand that reached to lift her, she knew there were still hands reaching to pull her down, and she was right inside the studio office. Behind closed doors, the storm was already brewing. She's too hot right now to cut, one executive said, pacing. She's gaining fans fast, especially after that crying scene. But she's off script. We can't have her rewriting lines with Keanu. It's not in her contract. Another producer shook his head. We either rein her in, or we make sure she slips. Gently, make it look like burnout. They didn't hate Anna. They feared her. Because she wasn't asking for power, she was becoming powerful. Power without their control was dangerous. But back on set, Keena had no idea what was unfolding behind the scenes. She was focused on the work. Scene was intense. Her character had to confront years of silence and betrayal, all while barely speaking above a whisper. The director gave no notes. The crew watched with full attention, and Keanu once again was there, solid, present, steady. Before they rolled, he leaned close and whispered, Whatever you're carrying, pour it into this scene. I've got you. She did. When the cameras rolled, Anna dropped into a space deeper than she'd ever gone before. Her eyes welled up. Her hands trembled. Her voice, barely above air, spoke truths written in the quiet spaces between lines. The set was silent. No one blinked. No one moved. When the director finally whispered, Cut, there were tears in more than one pair of eyes. Even the sound guy wiped his cheek with the edge of his shirt. And Anna. Why? She just stood there. Chest rising, falling, heart wide open. She had found her truth and poured it out, and everyone had witnessed it. Afterward, Keanu walked up to her slowly. He didn't say much. He just placed a hand gently on her shoulder and gave her that same quiet nod. But later that day, things shifted again. Anna was called into a private meeting with the studio reps. They sat her down in a sleek, cold room with fake plants and bottled water on the table. "We're concerned," one of them said. "About what?" she asked, frowning. "Your emotional state, your intensity. It's affecting the crew?" She blinked. "I thought the crew appreciated what we did this week." "Some might," another man said. "We're talking about sustainability. Your behavior has been unpredictable. I haven't missed a single day. I haven't caused delays. I've just tried to be honest." "Honesty is fine," the first one said. "But it's not your job to rewrite scenes or influence other actors, especially not Mr. Reeves." Her throat tightened. "So this isn't about performance. It's about control." They exchanged glances. Anna stood slowly. "I'm not going to stop telling the truth," she said calmly. "You can try to silence me, but the audience already heard me." "Anna, no," she said, firmer now. "You don't get to threaten me with softness and smiles. Not anymore." She walked out, heart pounding, as she stepped back onto the soundstage. Keanu was waiting. He looked at her face. "Bad meeting?" he asked. "They want me quiet again. Are you going to be?" She shook her head. "Not even a little." He smiled. "Good." Evening. She posted something on her personal feed. Not a rant. Not an attack. Just a photo. The notebook Keanu gave her in one sentence. She had written on the inside cover, "No one gets to shrink me for their comfort." Within hours, it went viral. Fans reposted it. Young actresses shared it with comments like, "This saved me today." Journalists started writing articles with headlines like, "Ana de Armas finds her voice and the world listens." But it wasn't all praise. Some headlines twisted it. "Diva behavior on set." Ana's emotions raise red flags for studio insiders. "Keanu enables chaos behind scenes of new drama." Ana read everyone. And for the first time, she didn't let them break her, because her inbox also filled with messages from strangers, from other actors, from fans, from women who said, "You made me feel seen," and that outweighed everything else. The next morning, Keanu met her with 2 cups of coffee. "Ready for the storm?" he asked. She looked at him, tired, raw, but sure. "I am the storm," she said with a small smile. He chuckled. "Remind me never to underestimate you again." She raised her cup. Too late. On set, the energy shifted. No one dared talk down to her now. Not because she had screamed, but because she had stood with grace, with pain, with purpose, and Keanu. He never stepped in front of her. He simply stood beside her, quietly, constantly. And sometimes, that's the greatest kindness of all. The final scene 12 weeks later. The sun set on the final day of filming. The production team rushed around collecting equipment, wrapping cables, and shouting instructions. But Anna stood quietly by the edge of the soundstage, hands folded, heart full. The journey had been harder than anyone on the outside would ever know. But she hadn't quit. She hadn't run. And more than that, she hadn't let them shrink her. The final scene of the film was scheduled just after golden hour. They wanted the sky to burn behind her character's last monologue. It's just her, alone on a wide-open rooftop speaking directly into the lens. Keanu wasn't in this last scene. He had already filmed his goodbye, but he came to set anyway. He didn't say anything when he arrived, just nodded at her from across the lot.com, steady. Present, he always was. Anna felt a soft ache in her chest as the makeup artist touched up the edge of her eyes. "You okay?" Rafael whispered. She nodded. "Yeah, just ready. You've been ready for a long time," he said. As the cameras were placed and the drone took its position overhead, the director walked over to her, not yelling. This time, not rushing. "This scene is yours," he said, quieter than usual. Take your time. Anna stepped onto the rooftop, let the breeze move through her hair. The lights dimmed as the sky turned orange and soft lavender, and the camera began to roll. She stood in silence for a long moment. Before speaking, her character was supposed to deliver a final farewell. But instead of the scripted lines, she gently placed the paper in her hand on the ground and spoke from her soul. For a long time, I thought silence kept me safe. If I didn't speak, no one could twist my words. If I didn't shine, no one would try to dim me. She paused, voice trembling. But silence also kept me small, afraid, invisible. A single tear slid down her cheek. I don't want to be invisible anymore. Not in my life, not in my work, not in my heart. The wind picked up slightly, almost as if nature was nodding in approval. So if you're watching this and you feel like your voice doesn't matter, please hear mine, because it's not perfect. But it's true, a long, quiet beat. And sometimes, true is enough. The director didn't yell, "Cut." He didn't need to. Everyone felt it. The air held it, and the moment wrapped itself around the entire crew like a quiet wave. Anna walked off set as applause began to rise. Soft at first, then louder. But it wasn't just applause for a scene. It was for a transformation, for a woman who had almost given up and chose to rise instead. As she stepped toward her trailer, Keanu stood waiting near the back entrance. He handed her a small envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "Something I wrote for you," he said. "Don't open it yet. Wait until you're alone." Anna nodded. "Double quotes, thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For seeing me when no one else did." Keanu gave her the gentlest smile. "You were always visible, Anna. You just needed someone to remind you." Later that night, in her quiet apartment, with the lights low and the notebook resting beside her on the coffee table, Anna opened the envelope. Inside was a single page, handwritten, "Dear Anna, I saw you before the world did, not because I'm wiser, not because I'm special, but because pain recognizes pain, and courage recognizes light. What you did on that set wasn't just acting, it was healing. For you, for others, for me. You didn't stay because of me. You stayed because you still had something to give, and you gave it every day, even when it hurt. Never let them define your voice. Never let them rent your soul. You are not a product. You are a person, and you are powerful." Always standing beside you, Kana pressed the page to her chest and closed her eyes. She remembered every moment, every time she had doubted herself, every tear in that trailer, every note of cruelty, and then she remembered every moment Keanu reminded her who she was, the notebook, the silent nods, the sandwiches, the words she needed before she even knew how to ask for them. And finally, the space he gave her to be loud, to be soft, to be honest. Anna picked up a pen and wrote one more line on the last page of the notebook. "I almost quit. But someone believed in me and now I believe in myself." Months later, the film released. To global praise, critics called Anna's performance career-defining. Audiences wept in cinemas. It's not because the story was sad, but because it was true. She did press interviews, stood on red carpets, and smiled in front of cameras, but behind every lens. She carried a quiet strength no one could steal. At an awards ceremony later that year, Anna stood on stage holding a golden trophy, her hand shaking. "I want to thank the one person who didn't try to fix me," she said to the crowd, who simply stood beside me and reminded me I was already whole. The camera panned to Keanu in the audience. He gave the same small nod, and the world saw it. But what the world didn't see was the way after the show ended. Anna and Keanu walked together in silence through the back halls, away from the lights. No big speech, no grand performance, just two people who understood each other, who knew the truth behind every moment, and how one quiet act of kindness can change everything.